Hello, my name is Ben Fitzmaurice. Today we are discussing the issue of genetically modified foods. More specifically, should they be labeled? Before I started my research, I strongly thought that yes, they should be labeled. The consumer needs to know what's going into their food. As I progressed my research, I began to learn more about this topic. Did you know genetic engineering was first discovered in the 1970s when scientists realized they can move genes from one organism to another? By 1989, research had expanded exponentially with added genes in mice, firefly genes in tobacco leaves, which made them glow, and using genetically manufactured bacteria to create low-fat pork and increase milk production in dairy cows. The main case I looked into regarding the fight for genetic labeling was within the state of Vermont. For those for labeling did not want anything drastic. According to Act 120, food manufacturers must label products created through genetic engineering and intended for retail sale with a simple statement saying, produced with genetic engineering. They wished for this information to be purely factual and non-controversial. Then they also left the law open to allow manufacturers to supply additional information should they desire. They also stated that by allowing states to set up their own laws regarding this matter would greatly help develop regulations for the nation when it came time for federal legislation. Those against said that since there has been no proof of health risks associated with genetically modified foods, there should be no need for labels, given that genetic manufacturing is an extension of traditional breeding and it is a process, not a thing. Even the FDA has stated that food produced from genetic manufacturing is not materially different from food produced conventionally. They argue that the FDA has had policies in place for decades regarding this matter, and that current arguments for labeling is just a front to drive out genetically engineered food from the market in order to favor less safe and more expensive alternatives, such as organic foods. I decided to cast my vote on not labeling food produced with genetic manufacturing. While the idea is novel, I can see it being helpful to the consumer, the underlying reason for this push is not for the people. This push is a way to put genetically engineered products in a bad light with misrepresentation. This tactic was widely successful in the EU, with many products being banned despite the thousands of studies proving that there is nothing wrong to worry about with regards to consumer health or environmental impact. Genetically engineered food must also pass rigorous testing before it is deemed acceptable, while conventionally grown food has no legal requirements to test their food. But once the fear starts going, it moves like wildfire among the populace. This is regrettable because if these practices were widely adapted around the world, food production would increase while the prices would shrink. And as the population grows, we will need as much as we can. By 2050, the estimated population will be at 9 billion people. These modification methods have been proven to allow products to be better in storage, more nourishing, and in principle health promoting, which will be needed in the developing nations. To summarize, while the idea behind labeling food that has been produced with the help of genetic manufacturing is a good idea, I believe it needs more work and needs to be made more specific to ensure there is no misleading or biased views associated with the labels. They should also be more specific on what was altered in the products. But in the long run, it shouldn't matter. All food that has been modified that reaches our table has been scrutinized to some of the harshest degrees and is undoubtedly perfectly fine to feed our population, and in fact has the potential to solve any supply shortages we may face due to any kind of disaster such as droughts, floods, and heat waves. Genetically modified food needs no label and should be pushed to the forefront of our agricultural system. Thank you.